starting in February, you're going to walk us through a 6-week program to guide us through the book, The Untethered Soul. So these are going to be on Zoom calls, 7 o'clock on Sundays. What is that going to look like, Tim? And I see the big smile that you have. I'm excited about it. I've never experienced this with you before. Is this something you've done in the past? Is this based upon what you've learned guiding inmates through this work in prison? Can you share a little bit more
Sure.
About this, please?
Well, The Untethered Soul is the result of one of our administration people accumulating all these talks that Nikki gave for, from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and transcribing them into chapters. And then Mickey just kind of put them together with a lot of work, a lot of editing, a lot of clarification, fine tuning into what became a really nice series of teachings about different ways of working with yourself. And I was present at the creation, so to speak. Like, I've been listening to these talks, like I said, 3 times a week for 30 years. I have thousands and thousands of hours just devoted to meditation, sitting in these talks, and now teaching them in prison settings. I've done meditations with different groups of people. And what I think the experience is that you'll read the book, right? And you get the experience listening to the talks. And there's so many ways to interpret, what's being written and how that feels inside you and how that becomes productive inside you, that we'll have a chance to go through each of the sections and talk about what they mean and how they work and what it actually feels like. And I think the thing that I bring to the table is that, I've gone through this. I came to the temple as a rank amateur, never having heard of these things, never having meditated, never having done any of these things. And I just started from scratch, and it was at the same time, within a year period, I discovered the temple. I got married and got my first career job that I've been working for. And I actually advanced into becoming in that sort of photo management, if you will. I was a photo editor with running a group of people. And so these lessons that I've learned, they are in my heart, right? I've read the book. I've listened to the talks. I've listened to tons of spiritual teachers. They're all saying the same thing in different ways. But the beautiful thing about The Untethered Soul is the structure that it puts together, and it makes a really nice format for us to discuss. So you'll be reading the book, right? You'll read probably, the book kind of breaks down into 6 sections, and they all kind of have common themes. And we'll do the sections one by one and then talk about them. We'll do a guided meditation just to kind of clear your head, so to speak. You'll be coming out of whatever you've been going through with Sunday, watching the Philadelphia Eagles win another game, something like that. And then we'll do a guided meditation to kind of clear the air, just get a little quiet. And even if you have a hard time meditating on your own, guided meditations are really amazing because they kind of take your own thoughts out and put other thoughts in. And that's, I've been doing that at prison for a while, and that's a really challenging environment, but it seems to work. It's been a really effective tool. So we'll do a guided meditation, and we'll start talking and ask, look at the basic teaching training objectives that come from each of the sections. And we'll talk about them, and I'll ask questions and let different people talk about their experiences, with what that meant to them, how that pops up in real life, and basically kind of create the same spiritual community that I get to live with here. That's really my goal, is that it's not me per se, and it's not each of the individuals, but it's that group energy, the idea that where 2 or more are gathered in my name, therefore I shall I be. I really feel that. Just that group energy is amazing. It just opens layers of consciousness and energy that you don't get by yourself reading. And so we'll do that together, work through it, talk about, some of the challenges that you face in implementing these things. One of my friends called what I do as being an Untethered Soul integration coach. And I think that's pretty accurate, because these principles, it's actually easier. It's easy to make them more complicated than they are. It's easy to get kind of too mental about them, if you will. Well, you're well in the majority.
This guy.
But the real value is that by going deep and working at the root, you start to face where the blockages lie, the difficulties lie, and we'll work at that. And my job at that point is to present constructive ways to work things based on what I'm hearing from each of the individuals. And to some degree, just encourage you. Everybody who goes through this runs up against their own shit, and that's like, no matter what spiritual path you take, I really firmly believe that there's no one way to get to God or the kingdom of heaven that's within you, your Buddhist state, whatever you call it. This isn't the only way, but the power is in actually sticking with a path to go through your own stuff, to work through your own blockages, to get to a point where you feel you don't have the blame of having those blockages and those problems, but you do have the responsibility to work through them. And that's what we'll encourage each other to do, is to take responsibility for our own growth, do it as productive as we can be, and then just encourage each other, just like to be there for each other, because it's hard. It really is hard. When you have a hard day at work and deals fall through and the interest rates go up and your property all of a sudden is like 10% less rentable, saleable, whatever, is going on in your world. And then you get on the interstate and you drive all the way home and it's backed up. And oh my God, if I just gotten on 10 minutes earlier, I could have avoided that car crash. And then you get home, and your spouse is having a bad day and your teenage daughter is having hormones or whatever. I mean, we all go through this stuff. It's real. It's life, and in some ways it's more challenging to be a karma yogi, which is what we all are. I am too, but you don't have that sort of refuge twice a day to really kind of just have that planned environment of calm. You've got to manage that yourself. So we're going to try to create an environment that encourages that state so you can have a bit of a refuge at least once a week. And maybe one of the goals of this training too is to actually create some co-mentoring between participants so that you have somebody you can call and talk to maybe 2-3 times a week and touch base and say, how's it going? What questions are you having? How's this working for you? And just to raise that awareness of what we're going through. Because at the end of the day, like I said, this is all about learning about yourself. You, Rob, learning about yourself, and every one of these, 12 to 15 people learning about their own abilities, capabilities, how their mind works, what triggers them, and then how to work with themselves in a productive and safe way. So we'll encourage that. That's really what this is about, just encouraging that. And that's what it is, Rob. That's all that work. That's what we're going to do together.